To soar sorely is such a bore. A raptor up high has a real chore. Hunting for prey far down below is a bald eagle's typical MO. But how can they fly for so long? Are their muscles really that tough and strong? Or is it the rhythms of Earth that keeps them up, sailing the skies with mirth? Flowing with convection is key to flight in life, death, and taxonomy. Welcome to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos. Are we not welcome back this time?
I was doing the pre-show. I was going to say welcome to the warm-up.
Oh, yips. It's yippee.
But thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. And a very special thank you to our patrons, to Tristan Taylor, Jesse Raspolich, Carol Raspolich, and Richard Kaspar. Thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on.
And today we're talking about what KJV onlyists think ancient Hebrews made themselves bald as. But more on that later.
Wow. Interesting. I didn't think to go biblical with it. But
yeah.
I guess I could have. Yeah, we're talking about the symbol of freedom. The 1,000-yard stare. The bald eagle.
Yeah. The beagle.
Here, like, in classic LDT style, we do this. We're close, but not lined up with the holiday that would go best with it. It is almost Memorial Day, and this will come out soon after that.
This will come out the day after that. So right after your Monday morning off, your Tuesday morning back to work,
you'll get to learn about
beagles to listen about.
The beagles, yes. The fox and the hound. I don't think it's a beagle. But like also Shark Week will happen, and then like 2 weeks later we'll do our first shark in like 3 years or something. But yeah, it's the bald eagle, also known as fish and grips, freedom feathers, and since you went biblical, I think it's Elisha. We'll go with Elisha. I think it's Elisha, the one baldy.
Oh yeah.
Is it Elisha or Elijah that's baldy?
I think it's Elijah that's going up you bald head.
Elijah's the second one, I think. Goodness, that's some Elden Ring naming right there. It's like, is it Melina? Is it Melania? No, it's Elijah, and they're pupil and mentor. They're not even like separated by hundreds of years. They're contemporaries. So the next guy is Elisha. Like, oh man, now I gotta remember. I bet you
it's Elisha.
Everybody.
It's Elisha.
Oh, is he the first one or the second one?
He's the second one.
Okay, I bet you when Elisha started his ministry, everyone called him Elijah for like the first 5 years.
No, they called him you bald head, and then they died by bears.
And then they death by bears, death by divine bears. But let's taxonomize this. I don't know if you may know the bald eagle, but I bet you have not memorized its binomial nomenclature, because even after having written this down several times and read it to myself, I will probably not have ever memorized this. The kingdom
one.
Is when you know, love, and are in. It's the kingdom Animalia. The phylum is Chordata. It's got a spine, and it's Well, its spine is hollow because it's got to have, the spinal cord in the middle there. But we talked about hollow bones for birds a few weeks ago. Class is Aves. It is a bird. The order is Accipitriformes, which is those raptor birds of prey. The family is Accipitridae. The genus is Haliaeetus.
Huh.
Haliaeetus. There are 4 vowels in a row there. I-A-E-E. What are you supposed to do with that? But yeah, Haliaeetus. Yippee-ki-yay. The species is Leucocephalus. That one's a little bit easier. So Haliaeetus leucocephalus.
Okay.
And since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, critter groups. The part of the show where I ask you, Joe, a question, and that question is the same every time. What is the name of a group of this animal, or what is the term of entry, or what is the collective noun? We have done eagles in the past, but I don't think we didn't do this one. This is a new term of entry well, not new, but new to the show. If you saw a group of eagles, would you say it's A, a congress of eagles, B, a freedom of eagles, C, a spirit of eagles, or D, a spear of eagles?
I guess we'll go with a congress. Final answer.
That's correct.
Woo!
It is a congress.
Isn't Congress another one? I might just be thinking of a
Parliament. A parliament
Or
of
parliament.
owls.
Yeah.
It's a congress of eagles, even though eagles are not. Bald eagles are a North American thing, but eagles in general are all over the world. So
True.
it'd be weird to be in Mongolia and call it a congress of eagles. But I think it's confluence is the other one. But yeah, Congress of Eagles. Would you like to hear about what the bald eagle looks like in case you
Aren't an American?
Still though. It's like I mean, there aren't elephants in the wild here, but goodness. I know what
True.
one looks like, but Let's talk about what the bald eagle looks like. It is a large raptor with dark brown feathers all over its body and a characteristic pearly white head and bold, hooked yellow freedom beak for tearing up that Stamp Act specifically. The bald eagle's gaze is enough to turn even the staunchest redcoat to stone thanks to its piercing yellow eyes and constantly furrowed freedom brow. Its yellow feet are thick and powerful for crushing oppressive overseas monarchies, and its red blood is pumped by a heart that ever beats for liberty and democracy. And its toes are tipped with razor-sharp black talons for gripping prey and commies. So now you know. And it's a big bird.
You say it's toes?
I sure did.
Nice. Well done.
It is one of the bigger eagles, if not the biggest eagle.
A bigger eagle? Okay, a beagle?
A big beagle?
Do you want to know how biggle this beagle is?
I don't like biggle. That's not a word that feels good in my brain.
Welcome to the Beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show, the part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send in audio of yourself singing, or chittering the words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. Or screeching, you could do. We don't have a new measure up intro this week, so that means we get to hear from an eagle. And Carlos will know that it's an eagle.
Is it going to be Sam Eagle? Because I'll take that.
Bald eagle. It's going to be a bald eagle. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. Yeah, so there's a reason most of the time in a movie when you see a bald eagle soaring and looking majestic, and you hear this majestic screech, that it's like a red-tailed hawk usually, because their actual eagle sounds like a disappointing seagull. It's a seabird sound. It sounds not cool.
Yeah, and I thought it was the golden eagle has that like quintessential peel, that like high noon dual eagle screech, or is that a hawk?
No, it's a red-tailed hawk that the bald eagle. The bald eagle scream heard in most movies and television shows is actually the call of a red-tailed hawk.
Is this the same thing they did with the lion, the MGM lion? They're like, lions' roars are pathetic. Let's put a tiger roar in there instead. Gosh, that sounds like you deflated it.
But yeah.
Probably sounds better in a canyon.
It sounds great in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. It sounds grand.
Let's talk about their wingspan. It's between 1.8 and 2.3 meters, or 5 feet and 11 inches, to 7 feet 7 inches.
It's a big boy. It's a big freedom boy.
It can hug LeBron long ways. How many eagles go into the? But it never would, because LeBron loves China.
But how many? But isn't your wingspan supposed to be your height? So wouldn't his wingspan be that?
Whose?
Wouldn't LeBron's wings? If is LeBron? LeBron isn't 7'7".
That's why I said he could hug you. You don't need. You're not.
Shaq
you hug
is 7'5"
people who are
5 or
you
something
hug.
like that.
I said you could hug him long ways.
Oh,
you can. Somebody doesn't need to be your wingspan to hug them. So yeah, how many eagles go into the longest flight ever made by great circle distance? I tried to make this the longest. I tried to go by what?
What is great circle distance? Is that a company?
Here's a hint. Great circle distance is the distance along a straight circle around the globe, similar to as the crow flies.
Oh, not taking the Coriolis effect into account that all planes have to take into account when they make long voyages?
No, it's by great circle distance. I think there's a specific route along the great circle around the globe. The longest flight by ground, or a couple routes. The longest flight by ground distance is held as a completely separate record. But the one that we're looking
New
at,
York to Sydney or something like that.
Could be. But the one
based on Inception. That's my Inception knowledge kicking in.
It's been a while since I've seen that. The one we're looking at, though, was made by Air Tahiti, Nui's flight TN-64 in a Boeing 787-9, which flew from Tahiti to Paris.
That's the longest flight. That's the. So how far is it by as the Nazgul flies from Tahiti to Paris?
But I wanted to make it the longest flight in the air, like the flight that is the longest time an aircraft was in the air, which is way more interesting because it was in the stinking 50s. The Wright brothers were just getting done doing the plane. And the
Wright brothers got done with the plane, and then we went to war and perfected it.
And then after the war, we were like, I don't have any more Nazis to shoot, So why don't we just fly forever? And 2 guys flew for 64 days in a Cessna.
And they just did the like airborne
Refueling?
thing.
Yes. But since it was just around Las Vegas, like they weren't going anywhere.
They flew in circles for 60 days.
I don't know where they went, but I didn't get any like how far they flew stats.
I guess you
So
just
I
take their
assume they were
speed
just-
and multiply it by how long they flew.
Yeah.
Gosh, Cessnas are so small. They don't fly very high. That must have been the most boring flight. It was so
For 2
boring.
weeks.
For 2
Or
months.
For 2 months, yeah.
2 months. There's no bathroom. This is like that one time you told us about the longest like trip in a car that they took was like drove like all the way around like from LA to New York to back
Yeah.
in one go without stopping. Wow, that's crazy. Oh, but that's not what we're doing. We're doing the Paris to
No.
Tahiti.
Yeah.
Which is probably about half of the Earth's circumference.
It's less interesting because it's a commercial flight. It's not 2 guys with a dream. It's just a regular commercial flight that happens to be really long. That does not run anymore.
I do not, off the top of my head, even know what the ballpark is for how many miles the Earth is around. That sounds like something I've known in the past, but man, it could be like 15,000 miles, or it could be like 50,000 miles.
Here's a
I
hint.
don't know.
I have no idea how it is this distance.
It also has to go north. Tahiti's is below the equator, and Paris is pretty high above the equator. So,
I guess I don't understand great circle distance very well.
yeah, because whenever you look at the if you're on a plane going like a really far distance, especially one that's going directly east or west, and they show you the route, they have to do this big like curve because they're taking into account the curve, the Earth spinning as well, the curvature of the Earth. So it's not like straight there. It's up and over usually if you're like going across the the Atlantic or something like that.
So that since they're going north, yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I'm gonna say 15,000 miles. There we go. 15,000 miles. Nope. 10.4 million eagle
10.4
wingspan
million
lengths.
eagles.
Yes.
Final answer?
Yes.
Well, it was 15,000 kilometers.
No.
The correct answer is 6.8 million bald eagles.
That is a
Or
D.
9,765 miles? Doesn't that seem short?
It does seem very short.
8,485 nautical miles.
Because it's like 2,000 miles from here to Indiana. Or from South Florida to Indiana, I know that.
Can you throw a stone from Tahiti to frickin' France?
Yeah, if you can throw a stone 6 million bald eagles worth.
Eagles, yeah. Let's talk about their weight. They're between 3 and 6.3 kilograms, or 6.6 and 3.9 libs. How many bald eagles go into the
13.9.
Antonov? 13.9. How many bald eagles go into the Antonov AN-225 Mriya, M-R-I-Y-A? Say that in a Russian accent.
Mriya.
Yeah, that's probably fine. The heaviest aircraft to ever do flying. Here's a hint. The Antonov was a Soviet cargo aircraft turned NATO cargo aircraft that was built in 1988 and was destroyed by Russian forces in the Battle of Antonov Airport in Kiev, Ukraine in February 2021. A historic plane destroyed recently.
By those evil Ukrainian people defending their home.
Well, it was in Ukrainian custody.
Yeah, we're gonna keep your murder plane.
It was in NATO custody. No. It was a NATO plane after the Soviet Union collapsed. So Russia invaded and tried to take the airport and blew up stuff, including this plane.
Russia blew it up.
Yes.
Got it. A heavy plane. I just listened to an Art of Manliness episode that talked about the B-17 bomber and how heavy that was, and I can't remember what they said. It was 2 days ago. You can't expect me to have that kind of information on hand. And that was that's a really big plane.
Yeah, so I think it's it might be third or fourth on the list of heaviest planes.
The B-17.
Or
the
the Airbus. I was looking at one of the Airbuses.
I'm gonna say
Airbus is just I think there's like a ton of those. I think those are like commercial airliners. Anyway, I don't know anything about planes, but this one's for Calvin. Calvin loves planes.
Planes are really cool. I gotta say that.
This is the biggest plane ever. In terms of weight.
15 tons sounds like a lot. So we're going to go with that. 30,000 pounds. 30,000 smeckly-doos. Divided by 13.9. We're going to say 2,158.
Final answer?
Yeah, to 2,200.
The correct answer is 101,000. Yeagles.
Oh, boy.
The Antonov was 640 tones, or 705 short tones.
I almost said 500,000 pounds.
That's a lot of elephants.
But that's 1.2 million pounds.
Yeah. It's a heavy plane, and it flies.
Well, because it's not about weight. It's about
I guess
lift.
Clouds fly, and they're also
a million pounds. As
spread
we learned
over vast distances.
With the mongoose episode. Things that are a million pounds can definitely fly. I mean, just look at the sun.
Is that flying? That's bold to say.
It's up there and it doesn't fall down, so that's all I know.
Now you're thinking like a tribal...
Like a flat earther.
Yeah, fair enough. I was going to say
it's suspended in the
a
celestial
man of the tribe
expanse.
Thousands of years ago. But I guess you could also say a flat earther today. But that's all I got for that. Do you have any quick fact before we get into the high flying fact?
Sure, yeah. So the bald eagle lives in almost all of North America, from northern Mexico to Alaska to Florida to Newfoundland, the whole gamut. It doesn't live super far north, and also doesn't live super far south, but that rich, meaty center of the hamburger, that's where we live, and that's where the bald eagle is. Speaking of things to eat, bald eagles will eat most any animal that is small enough for them to carry off in their majestic talons. They mostly eat fish, but they'll also snack on mammals, smaller birds, communists, and even reptiles, but it won't tread on snakes, no siree. In fact, they have over 400 species on the menu. They swoop down and snatch up their pathetic prey using special tools they have in their claws called spicules, also known as 45 caliber ACP hollow points in a 30 mag clip that'll blow the lung right out of your back. And they also invade and steal the kills of other sniveling competition species that are too weak to do anything about it. They make nests that span over 8 feet and weigh a metric ton, which is mostly made up of sticks they find. There was one in Florida that they found that was over 9 feet long, so these massive, massive nests. Their calls, like we heard, are a light series of squeaks and whistles, far from the freedom cry of your prototypical eagle and more like the battle fife of the Republic. They reach sexual maturity at about 5 years old and have an impressive mating dance that involves plummeting, locking talons, and eating an entire 64-ounce steak so that it's free at Texas Roadhouse. They lay 2 to 3 eggs, which are actually larger the further north you get. It's not like the ring; it actually doesn't like just get larger in your hand as you walk north. If you're an eagle that is north, your eggs are going to be larger than ones that are closer to the equator. The chicks fledge after 14 weeks, and they are ready to take flight and police a grateful world for another 20 years, which is their average lifespan. There used to be a lot of bald eagles in the U.S., but a pesticide called DDT resulted in thinner eggshells and very low egg survival rates, reducing them to just a fraction of their population. Some estimate that there used to be 500,000 back in the 18th century, and there were just a little over 1,000 in the 70s, which is a pretty steep decline.
Silent Spring. There's a famous book about it.
Oh, really? I have not heard of that. The it is not legal to kill a bald eagle unless you get a license, and wind generator companies are licensed to kill 4,200 bald eagles a year. Oh my gosh!
Wow.
just a spree. I mean, I guess it's not a lot compared to their current population, but I mean,
wait a minute. Are they allowed to go and kill them, or are they saying
they're
if
allowed
a bald eagle gets hit by a blade, you're fine as
I
long
did
as
not,
you don't go over 4,200 of them?
I did not look into the exact specifics of that.
Like, if they have a really good year and don't kill any bald eagles by the blade, can they go on a bald eagle hunt?
Killed by the blade? Did they get to kill 800 did they get to kill 8,400? Okay, so it's wind energy. So your precious green energy is responsible for the mass murder of America's symbol of freedom. Enjoy that. Greta Thunberg or whatever her last name is.
I don't think she cares about she cares about animals, I assume. I actually don't. I've never heard her talk about animals. I think she just doesn't want to die when she's 40 of greenhouse gases.
She'll die of angry eagles. Because
it's her fault. All that we talked about causation and all these qualifying things of cause. It's all Greta Thunberg.
I'm
only 20.
It seems like it's more of an accidental thing if it happens by accident. But I don't think it's like, oh, are you a wind generation company? Here's a permit and a 12 gauge. Like, go have at it. But that's so that's ridiculous. But it's also ridiculous to be like, only 4,200 eagles are allowed to fly into your windmills. Like, what are you supposed to do about that?
You gotta take it down.
what
Apparently,
if
if you paint if you paint a blade, then eagles and other birds will see that and not fly into it.
Well, that doesn't sound too hard to do. I mean, if a whole congress of eagles comes flying into your windmill, you could just have your whole operation shut down. But yeah. So the bald eagle has been a U.S. national symbol since 1782, 5 years before the ratification of the Constitution. But before that, many Native American tribes revered the bald eagle for several different reasons, including seeing it as a symbol of peace and also a symbol of fertility, thanks to its giant nests. Which, if you have ever seen symbols of Native American fertility deities, that's pretty tame.
Abe, we're gonna talk about good old Ben Frank.
No, we just talked about it, but you can go ahead and call that one.
The Ben Frank guy, Ben Franklin, reportedly did not want the bald eagle as our national mascot. Instead, he wanted the turkey, and the reason he didn't like the beagle is because they are kleptoparasites. He didn't want a sniveling little stealer as our bird. He wanted a thick, delicious ground bird.
It's the schoolyard bully. It just takes, like, oh, I see you have a kill there. It's mine now.
He didn't.
The sniveling one is the one that gives up their lunch.
Well, he didn't want. He said swiper, no swiping. He didn't want. He didn't want a dishonorable bird. As he thought. But
then also it's our God-given right
lame.
to go west.
Turkeys are lame, and if I don't care how good you cook them, they're dry.
I cannot imagine. I feel like this would be a different country if we had gone with the turkey. No one's gonna put that on their shirt.
We would have been Canada.
Or their motorcycle. The
difference between Canada and the United States is the eagle.
Well, their national bird is a maple leaf. That's
the national bird is a moose. Is a moose dropping.
It's a moose. I feel like a moose would win in a fight between that and an eagle, but
fair enough.
Moose
but who's going to look goofy doing it?
That's true. Bullwinkle.
The eagle
that's
will look
or Rocky,
majestic, dying, and the moose will look like a dork winning.
The eagle will just sound like a dork. sound like a seagull dying. Seagull squawks.
Well, this is all irrelevant. Let's talk about. Are you done with quick facts?
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm calling this major fact: soar on wings like eagles. We're going back to the Bible. Soar on wings like eagles. Eagles are known for their ability to see long distances, as your nickname suggested. But the reason they need to be able to spot prey from miles away is because they scan the ground from high in the sky. Very high, in fact. Eagles can comfortably fly as high as 20,000 feet above sea level. For perspective, a commercial passenger jet flies around 35,000 feet. Yeah, I know that because the guy who's flying the plane always says so. They don't just fly high, they fly long. Birds wearing tracking equipment have meandered through the wild blue yonder for 125 miles without landing. An effortless glide is around 20 to 30 miles per hour, so that means they can remain in the sky for like 6 hours without needing to put feet to branch.
Wow.
6 hours. It's not quite 64 days, but it's good. Bald eagles can sustain these long flights and use minimal energy with a few tricks in their aviation sleeves. The first is called dynamic soaring. Dynamic soaring involves flying in a loop between two air masses. And an air masses have different temperatures and humidity levels, and the air may move differently. May move at different speeds or in different directions. So an air mass is just like a pocket of air that there will be like a border between two air masses where like the wind picks up. So a lot of times, because of temperature is one of the factors in the movement of air in an air mass, air masses will be layered on top of each other because it gets colder when you go upper. So the loop starts, this dynamic soaring loop starts when the bird moves from one air mass into a moving air mass head on. So in other words, a static, stationary, stagnant air mass they start in, usually the lower one. And then when they go higher up into a moving air mass, they'll go into it head on, kind of like entering the atmosphere in a space shuttle.
And they just catch on fire.
Yeah. So that increases its speed and generates lift. So as soon as they enter the air mass, the moving air mass, the eagle will make an immediate 180-degree turn and start to gain ground speed, which is speed towards the ground as it glides down towards the earth in a gradual slope. So it's not a nosedive. It's just like a slope down, so you're gaining speed, kind of like going down a hill in a sled. So after gaining all that speed, they can restart the loop, go back up into the moving air mass without losing momentum. So this loop allows them to...
this one's fun.
Yeah. It allows them to just kind of coast for long periods of time. But bald eagles can also fly using thermal convection currents. So heat transfer is one of the main causes of ocean currents, weather phenomenon, and geological activity. So just like heat causes thermal convection in the Earth's mantle, it causes convection in the atmosphere. Thermal convection currents are created by the uneven heating of the Earth's surface, resulting in high-reaching columns of air. So warm air expands. This is why heat rises. Warm air expands and becomes less dense, which is why it rises above cool air. So the sun heats... Yeah. So the sun heats the ground, and the ground heats the air above it, which rises until it is cooled by low pressure in the high in the sky. Then it loops back down and repeats, creating convection. And there's a column of heat rising in the center. So the eagles will find these like little columns of heat and camp out on them. Use these currents to save energy, allowing warm air to generate lift like a hot air balloon, or like Link opening his glider above some burning grass.
Someone's been playing Tears of the Kingdom.
But yeah, so they fly on heat. They're hot air balloons.
As they should.
And they're not the only birds that do this, but they definitely do it. It's part of the reason, like what we talked about before, that in ancient Hebrew, the word for eagle and the word for vulture is very similar.
It's
because
a soaring speck of bird way up there.
It's a word for high flying birds. And if you're ever reading the Old Testament and you come to Micah, where it says, "Make yourselves bald like the eagle," and then you remember back to LD taxonomy and remember, like, wait a minute, bald eagles don't even live in the ancient Near East. How could there be bald eagles in the Bible? There weren't. It was bald as in literally the featherless heads of vultures. So it's,
Yeah, because this bald eagle, the bald eagle is not bald. It is covered with feathers, like like most other birds. It just has a white head.
It's just that the word for eagle and the word for vulture is the same word. So some translations will translate that to vulture.
Interesting. You better believe if I was a bird, I would be like, this flapping thing is not working for me. What forces of nature can I harness to do that less while I fly? And so I would gravitate towards eagle for many reasses, but that's one of them. Hummingbird is like opposite end of the spectrum. That's too much work.
Oh yeah. You can get you're on the bottom of the food chain. If you stop, you'll die.
You got to flap so hard all the time. You got to work smarter, not harder. Use those thermal convection currents.
But you literally get to drink juice all day. That's fun.
Yeah, and also the hummingbird has like the longest migration. So, like,
imagine if you like stopped drinking Hawaiian Punch for like 2 minutes.
You die. Oh man, now I want Hawaiian Punch. I remember after I went hiking for 11 days in New Mexico. And when we got back to the main base camp area, there was a vending machine with a Hawaiian Punch, and that's what I had. And it was better than any beverage I've ever had.
There is a, I forget if it's Olipop or Poppy, like these healthy sodas. These like the healthy sodas with like apple cider vinegar to promote gut health that are only like 20 calories when you drink them. One of them has a Hawaiian Punch flavor.
They're only 20 calories, but they cost $20 per can.
Yes, yeah. So do you care about calories or do you care about your wallet? You can't care about both.
Yeah, this is not a Venn diagram.
It's not a Venn diagram.
No, these are two separate circles. But speaking of flying in circles and vultures and eagles, is that it? You have anything else?
Yep. The eagles and vultures are circling this episode.
So that was the bald eagle. For you out there in Podcastia, squawk softly, carry a big stick to your nest, and bop some commie field mice on the head, like the bald eagle here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
Man, I read everything else well except for that part.
Everyone knows mice are communist.
Yeah.